Guys, welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth. Once again, we have a very special guest, Kenny Mayne, joining us today. We're going to cover some other big things in the sports world once he leaves. Welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth. Another great episode here once again. Guys, as I said, welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth. We got myself, Jacob Jarrett, Conor Armstrong, and Peyton Marshall. And let's not forget Kenny Mayne joining us today, former ESPN on-air personality. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I like to hold something, so I grabbed the football. Doug Baldwin gave this to my daughter at a Seahawks game on the sidelines, and then I stole it from my daughter. So he stole it from the Seahawks. She's not old enough to handle a ball of this style and magnitude. So it's my favorite football ever. I've never felt more broken in football, and I've had it since 2015, somewhere in there. It's been a while.
It's awesome. That was when the Seahawks were pretty good, though. But listen, we're going to jump into the questions. Conor, start us off. What do you want to ask?
Yeah, Kenny, wanted to ask you first. You spent 27 years at ESPN. What was, in your mind, what would you think is the highlight of your career at ESPN?
When I got Stevie Wonder to say I can't be at the All-Star game, I have a high ankle sprain.
That's insane.
Other than that, I don't remember much about the whole. No, the wider world of sports was pretty good. We traveled around the world, covered the palio, the horse race in Italy, Irish road bowling. Got to do a bunch of free European vacations essentially, but made good stuff. We're very proud of that. Main Street, where I am taking responsibility for launching the careers of Aubrey Plaza, Alison Becker, John Glazer, Ben Schwartz, Chris Smith, to some degree Mulaney. He was in one episode, I think. Wow. But no, the football stories, NFL Countdown, they used to let me screw around and do like pretend football stories. Mm-hmm. And obviously SportsCenter, the immediacy of covering stuff right when it happened and jumping on the air and covering a no-hitter or a shot that was just made. And there's a whole bunch of things. I had fun the whole time.
It's awesome.
Jacob, you can go.
First off, Kenny, thank you so much for coming on. And we're really fortunate to have this opportunity to talk to you. I was just wondering, what would you say is the sport that you found to be the most consistently entertaining over the course of a season in terms of having, newsworthy stuff to go over on the air?
Professional highlight. Day in, day out, it's the fastest ball sport in the world. I went to school in Las Vegas. I played at UNLV a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And we used to go to Highlight, which was at the old MGM, which is now Bally's on Flamingo. That was like the cheapest entertainment because we had no money. We're in college. Scholarship checks like $480, rent's $200. You're just trying to make it by, eating $1.99 buffets. But a more serious answer, probably the NFL. I mean, the popularity of the NFL, and there's always something. It became, I don't know when it happened. It's been a long time, 20 years maybe, where it became a year-round sport, right? Like baseball's great, but we don't necessarily pay that much attention between the October and the start of spring training. There might be some deals or whatever, but football is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's kind of central to Americana, if you will, So I'd say the NFL.
So
Definitely.
You talk about the polio. It's one of the most historic events in sports history. Can you describe the energy and the culture surrounding the polio horse races in Siena, Italy, and just how you felt being around the crowd and just how it differed from anything you'd felt in American sports culture?
Yeah, it's hard to compare it with anything, the intensity of it. So for those who don't know, twice every summer, they hold a horse race in the town square of this little town called Siena, Italy. And it takes back to medieval times. They've been doing this race for, hundreds of years. And there's 17 districts. They call them contradas. Each one has sort of a mascot. Like we bonded with the unicorns. There was the owl district, et cetera, the fish, whatever. And it means the world to them. They have 2 races every summer. So 10 of the 17 get to race. And then those who didn't, and 3 more, right, to make 10 twice. And they do 3 laps around this town square. They throw a bunch of dirt and kind of mash it down and hope for the best. But they take it very seriously. They're kind of superstitious about it. Like if they think they do well, their wine crop's going to be better. If they think they did better than their enemy district. You know, the Owls and the Unicorns are always bickering. You know, that's all that matters. Like the Owls the owl horse crashed into the curve of St. Martin, I believe it's called. And the Unicorns finished, I think, third, but at least they beat the Owls. You know what I mean? They did better than their rival. This year, just recently, the Unicorns won for the first time, I think, in 15 years. So we celebrated on Twitter and repeated our 14-minute little mini documentary. You can look it up if you look up my last name and the word palio, P-A-L-I-O. You can see the bit that we did. Geez, 10 years ago, maybe now.
Yeah, definitely check that out. It's a very different culture than what we experience over here in American sports. But
and the build up is crazy. Like they have parades and everybody's singing the song in the street, and the selection of the horse is a big deal, and the jockey comes in, and they're just very passionate. You know, it's just different. In the same way, people are passionate about their soccer team or their football team or whatever, but I feel like it's one more step.
To a different level, for sure. I want to go to the last show that you ever did at ESPN, in which you interviewed Aaron Rodgers. What was your favorite part of that interview? And can you give me a little backstory, if there was any planning into the way that you ended it by saying "fuck you, Aaron Rodgers" as you left the ESPN set? I really want to know if there was any, kind of background to that. But the interview overall, how was that?
No, I mean, I had that joke in my pocket. There was nothing was scripted. There was no teleprompter. It was just whatever came out. I had a few questions for each guest that I kind of knew I'd probably go there, The background was, and that wasn't the last thing in the show. That was the last thing in his episode or his part.
That's true, yeah.
It's funny. People say that a lot. They thought that's literally what I said and left for good. But I said it. We taped it at, between 8:30 and 9:30. We taped all the interviews. The show started late because I think there was a baseball game that ran long. So our 2-hour show became 87 minutes or whatever. And the joke among all of us was, they're going to kill my last show. Like, literally, we won't get on the air. We're going to get moved to ESPN News or some horrible thing. So we'll be on SEC Network, or I don't know. No offense to the SEC Network, but you know what I'm saying? It was supposed to be on ESPN 1. That did sound offensive, didn't it? I take it back. Pick that up. So Aaron, I had interviewed not long before that, because remember, he guest hosted on Jeopardy.
Yep.
And I think this was after the show, if I'm not mistaken. We just kept talking a bit, and he was telling me about cryptocurrency and how great it was. And I'm like, oh, you mean like you take real money and then you buy pretend money, and then you hope other people buy pretend money for real money? Is that my close?
Yeah.
So he sold me on buying some crypto, which I did. In real life, I really did. Not a ton. And it went down, of course. And it was just perfect setup to say, hey, you told me to buy crypto. Then I get fired. My wife needs a fucking comforter, okay? Fuck you. That's pretty much the joke. And
that's awesome.
The great thing was, sometimes, our minds work funny. There was some nervousness. It was my last night. Do it right. Don't forget stuff. And I almost screwed up and forgot that. Like, I was just about to wrap up, and I was like, oh, do that joke. So I just reset the table.
Definitely. And I'm curious, though, because you mentioned that Rodgers kind of got you into cryptocurrency a little bit. I want to know nowadays, after you retired already, are you still deep into cryptocurrency? What's the deal with that? Has Rodgers kind of kept you in the game, or are you totally out of it now?
I bought the little bit that I bought, and I've just held. I'm watching the market. Okay.
Just saying, yeah.
Smart guy.
I don't know what
smart.
It still sounds like a pyramid scheme to me, but whatever happens, hopefully somebody needed the money more. Hopefully the money was, dispersed to others who sold, and they're having a good day.
Definitely. Last thing, though, because I mentioned Aaron Rodgers, obviously the upcoming NFL season, it's almost here. Week 1's going to be in about, I believe, a week or two. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, they lose Devontae Adams. In your expert opinion, do you think Aaron Rodgers has one more Super Bowl left in him, and how well will the Packers perform this season?
Oh, they'll make the playoffs, and then it depends on if they do well in the play. It's almost like anybody who qualifies for the playoffs might win the Super Bowl. It's just, you have to have a good enough season. Home field certainly helps, right? Not always, but it often does. And they're going to obviously be a contender. Whether they take it all the way through is impossible to predict. I hate making football predictions because there's it's just there's too many intangibles. There's people who get hurt, and somebody has a down season or whatever. Defense falls apart. There's all sorts of reasons why you do or don't fully succeed, and only one team wins. And I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old, but I'm very competitive at everything I do. Playing Yahtzee, playing golf, even though I'm no good. Like I'd rather win than lose at everything. And these guys are the same way. Obviously, the highest level of competition, but they'll definitely be there. And then it's all dependent on if they get a little lucky in the playoffs. You got luck factors in as well as skill at that point, and sort of the energy, right? The teams that are getting it together late December and they're on a good roll, they got good emotion. Losing that receiver is unhelpful, but he knows where to stick the ball. Like other guys, he was good before he had him, right? And he was really good when he had him. I think they'll figure it out.
That's been my whole mindset. I feel like without Devontae, he'll still be able to be successful. But Conor, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, Kenny, easy one. Who is your favorite athlete of all time and why?
Dang, that's not easy. Did you mean that wasn't easy when you said it was easy?
Yeah, I mean, it was easy for me to ask you.
You know what? I'm just going with Sue Bird, recency bias.
Hey.
I'm so proud of her, not just for her basketball, but all her activism and the way the WNBA women have been such leaders in this insane time we're living through. And I'm just rooting for her success. I got to go to the game in Seattle. They moved on in the playoffs. They got to play Las Vegas next. And I get to be on her little show. She does a little thing called Between Two Birds. Will take off on Zach Galifianakis. So I'm excited for that Wednesday. Unless they find a better person and I get killed. So no, I'm going to go recency bias. I just saw her play. She has fresh legs. Like she could play again next year without question. I think she's like, hey, how much you want from me? 20 years is enough, right? So
she's one of the GOATs of WNBA too. 20 years, she's been phenomenal. All-time leader in assists too.
I'd say besides Sue Bird, I'd go to Secretariat and Muhammad Ali.
It's a good one. Good one. Jacob, I'll throw it to you. Oh yeah, Jesse Owens too. It's a good one.
Sure.
Jacob lost out and he's gone. Goodbye, Jacob.
Yeah.
We're going to me. Kenny, I have a mouthful for you. Not literally, but metaphorically. In an interview with Snoop Dogg and Kevin Hart, you mentioned the addition of skateboarding into the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and how it gave skaters a platform to shine that they previously didn't have. The American market is dominated by basketball, football, and baseball content. Do you feel there is something inherently wrong with the lack of variety and opportunity in American sports culture?
Big question.
A bunch of sports got head starts. I mean, it's no different than the rest of America, right? A whole bunch of people got head starts. Families in certain situations, people of certain colors got less good starts, right? So it's just kind of the way the thing is built, right? Some in sports, some people or some leagues or some sports were institutionalized sooner than others. So some of these so-called fringe sports came along later, got sort of moved into the mainstream more than they once were. So I don't know if it's necessarily unjust or anything, like if that's what you're asking, because there's no way. Let's say we have 20 different sports, if that's the number. There's probably more.
Yep.
Pickleball's making a late comeback, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody can't be number one, right? Something's always going to be kind of the favored one. It's going to draw the most money. It's going to command the most attention. And it's just like anything else where there's so many choices now.
No.
Oh, we're losing him?
Kenny, come back.
Kenny, come on, man.
I think he's gone.
The connection's getting lost. Hopefully we can get him back in a second. I do want to mention one thing before we try to get him back. My dad, an avid pickleball player. Kenny's 100% right. Pickleball is making a comeback. Shout out Charles Mayone. He is an avid pickleball player right now. Obviously, we lost Kenny for a second. We're going to try to get him back on here in a minute. Guys, I'm really enjoying having him on. I like the discussion. Peyton, that question that you just asked, you said a mouthful. Awesome. That was saying something.
Thanks, pals. Thanks, friends.
That was a loaded question. I appreciate it.
I'm pissed because I wanted to hear his full response, but I think he got it out for the most part. He's kind of right.
We can get him back in a second.
I think his answer was mostly based around the fact that America is a capitalist society, and at the end of the day, if a certain sport brings in more money than another, then I guess lack of opportunity is just a part of the cookie. You know what I mean? And that's just what we have to take it for what it is. But I'm enjoying talking to him. I'm sad he's gone, but hey, at least we got him for 15.
We can get him back hopefully in a second if he rejoins. But the other thing I wanted to say, you're kind of right, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Jacob, in a second. But like, again, sports like basketball and football, Peyton, you said it perfectly, like Kenny Mayne did. If they're going to be making more money, they're going to get more airtime. They're going to get more TV deals. They're going to get more exposure, and that's just kind of naturally how, again, the cookie crumbles. It's almost like almost like natural selection. That just sports that aren't going to bring in as much interest, as much monetary value, they're going to fall by the wayside more so. And again, sports like football, basketball, soccer, hockey, baseball, even baseball has fallen a little bit, but just those main sports, they're going to garner more attention. But Jacob, give me your thoughts. Let me try to get Kenny back.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it just generally has to do with upbringing. I mean, obviously, you see based on different areas, you have more kids being shown to certain sports at a younger age, then eventually being fans of those sports when they get older. And I just think that it's one of those things where, based on the way American history has transpired, that, you know, those specific sports, it's going to be hard for other ones to level on with them, just purely because, I mean, people call baseball America's national pastime because at that time, that's all there was. Yeah. And then for a period, you know, they started adding one by one, and it's like, it almost feels like we're at a point now where it's like those 3 or 4 will always reign supreme, but there's always going to be, you know, stuff on the side trying to kindle its way in. So
definitely, we got Kenny Mayne back.
Thankfully.
There he
is. Let's go.
You want to know what happened?
What happened?
My phone just stopped and said, "We're done." And a message came up that said my phone is too hot for usage because global warming has affected this shit. No, I was on the porch and I had my phone propped up against my computer so I could get a stable look, and it was in the Seattle sun.
It's all good.
And the phone said, "No mas, I'm done here." So
it's all good. Kenny, you can finish what you were saying, though, touching on Peyton's question about how other sports kind of don't get as much of a kick as other ones and don't really get as much attention. You can finish what you were saying about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, fair or unfair, like women's sports have come on and gotten way more coverage than they once did, which is great. Like, I'm a huge fan, particularly of my home team here, the Storm, and watching all sorts of things, right? Look how much attention comes in the Olympics to certain women's sports more than men's, and it would stand to reason that, oh, maybe people would watch some more of this if we gave them the chance. But money drives everything, right? So if networks know that if they buy NFL rights, that guarantees them huge rating success for the games and the secondary programming. They like to call it shoulder programming now. You know, all the build-up shows and the post-game shows, and hell, just look at Twitter. You know, look at somebody like you know, Woj on the NBA or Schefter in the NFL, how much attention they get just to say so-and-so signing with so-and-so. So it's just the way it is. I don't know how else to describe it, except that a bunch of certain sports got head starts on others. So there's no way skateboarding, as good as the, you know, 520 rhythmic bender move was. I just made that up. You know, we can all appreciate that. Yeah, but it isn't going to supplant, you know, it's not moving the NFL out of the way tomorrow. Then again, with so many channels, so many streaming services, so many websites, everybody kind of does get a little bit of attention. It's just not going to be the same as weekly NFL coverage.
Fair enough.
Definitely. Jacob, we'll go to your question.
Well, that actually leads perfectly into my question, because I was going to ask, you know, in terms of those streaming services and, you know, online news really becoming pretty much the norm, do you prefer the way things used to be, or do you think that, you know, there's, you know, enough positives with this new technological sports journalistic world that it outweighs, you know, the way things used to be?
I don't know if it matters what I think of it or if I care, because it's just, it's already here, right? It's already what it is. Everything evolves. There's way more choices. I always say to kids, like when people are asking advice about how to get in, they look at how I did it, which was like 200 to 1 that I ever made it. But I'm always like, you guys got it better than I did. You can start your website today, start a TikTok account, Instagram, Twitter. If you're any good, people are going to follow you and you can capitalize off of that. So I think the fact that there are way more opportunities to do things is a good thing. And things have been kind of democratized, right, to some degree. Now, there's a lot of nonsense out there, too, particularly in the real news division, where people are just making up anything, and there's a certain amount of people that fall for it. But as far as sports goes, I think the fact that there are many more ways to consume things is probably a good thing. I'm stopping for water, but I'll listen to your question.
Gotcha. Conor, you can go next.
Yeah, Kenny, I wanted to ask you about a first pitch that you threw out at the Mariners game a couple years ago. I know you said that you wanted to throw 75 miles an hour, and I think you ended up throwing around like 67, 68. How was that whole process for you getting ready to throw out that first pitch? And were you satisfied with the result, even though it wasn't 75?
No, what happened was I've been asked to do that a few times, and I was asked in that particular time, this a couple years back. I was at work, I think, when the message came in, and I told my friends who I was, typing, getting ready for the show. And one of them, Derek, says, "What do you think you'll throw?" And I said, "I don't know, 75. I just kind of made up a number. I figure I can still get in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I was never a pitcher. If they let me throw a football, I'd look way better. I'd rather throw a football from, I don't know, short center field or something. So I just said 75. He's like, "No way." So we immediately have to have a bet. A couple other guys, it has to be a strike. Now we're arguing over, I said it has to be a borderline strike. Like I don't have to be perfect, just in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So my arm's still in good shape, but I'm not a pitcher, and I haven't thrown a baseball in quite a while. So I ended up, and I almost wonder, was it a practical joke by these baseball guys down there in Kent, Washington? They trained me for about a week before, and I feel like my arm didn't need help. What I needed help with was my mechanics. Like I don't know, how to load and how to throw. I know how to throw a football. And I think we overdid it. And I also kind of choked. I got out there, hurried my pitch. I took a football step. I took a small, like I do to throw a football.
Yeah.
The next year I got to 73. That was shot in Hartford. We did it remotely because of COVID. I think on the right day with the right air temperature, I think I can get right around 75. But again, what I'd much rather do is stick me on right field and throw like one hop to the plate. I think that might be more impressive anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a much easier throw. Pitching's hard.
Yeah, no, it is.
100. Different mechanics. The quarterback in you came out a little bit there for that one. But Peyton, we'll give you the next question.
I'm gonna let Pac go. Pac, you can go.
Oh.
Let Pac go. Pac, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Whoops.
There you go, Jacob.
In your
way to ruin the show.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sure these guys would all agree.
All right, Jacob. Go
Jacob.
Okay, so I was wondering, what major takeaways did you have from your time at KSTW station in Seattle, which is obviously where you got your start in the world before ESPN? And, what about those years gave you a reliable platform going forward within the industry?
You know what? For almost ruining the show, that was a really good question. What was great, so people who don't know, I left UNLV in broadcasting, and I still wanted to play football, even though I wasn't any big star in college. I was like second string, but I felt like I knew the guys that were going to get a look, and I was like, I don't think I'm that far behind those guys, even though I didn't get to prove it. So my coach talked the Seahawks into looking at me, and I signed a contract, but I failed the physical for my ankle, which, by the way, we have a foundation to help veterans because of my ruined ankle. So I have a brace that I use, a device we like to call it. So if you look up runfreely.org, you can see how we're helping veterans with the same device that I use to do things. I'm playing golf with it tomorrow.
Awesome.
Anyway, I failed the physical. I get a job in TV like 2 days later in Seattle, but as a kind of a gopher, I think we'd call it a production assistant these days. I just kind of did stuff. I ripped green sheets apart. We used to use 5-way copy paper. That was our script. We had to tape it together to roll it through the teleprompter. Like it was 1982 here, right?
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept moving up. I became a producer. I was the writer for the news of the national news, which was my interest anyway. I wanted to do more serious things actually, but then I somehow got on the air, started doing local news. And then they added a weekend show, which they didn't have previously. We'd always say if there's news on the weekends, it's news to us. That was our motto. Now I'm doing sports, and I've never done sports in my life, never been on TV in that fashion. I've never been an anchor, right? Like I got 5 minutes, it's your turn. So definitely I wasn't as good as I would become later at whatever I did. But that's right to be expected. Your first day is not as good as your second day. So the great thing about it, to get to your question about what did I get from it or learn from it, it was very experimental. Like no bosses were around. It was me and my partner Rod Simons who did the news, 2 or 3 camera people, couple field reporters, like 7 of us putting on a news show, right? Covering the Seattle metropolitan market. Right? But, sports was easy. You'd either go to the Mariner game or the Seahawk game or the Husky, you'd go to the event, get some interviews, go back to the station, which is like 30, 40 miles away. It's not Seattle. It was in Tacoma.
Yeah.
And put on a little show. And there might have been some comfort in knowing it wasn't highly watched, but yet you still, like you weren't going to like completely embarrass yourself in front of 10 million people. But it still mattered, right? Each show mattered. We wanted to do well. We studied them and tried to do better. And it turned out I was kind of using a similar method that they use at ESPN for how they do highlights. I just kind of made up my own method. So instead of writing out sentences of description of the tape, I would just kind of put bullet points. First inning, Griffey, home run, Mariners up 2-0. And that would play. And I could do my highlight call the way I would end up doing them at ESPN because they use what's called a shot sheet. It's like first inning, same thing. First inning, Mariners up 2-0, Griffey at bat. Griffey, homer number 40, Mariners up 4-0, or whatever the case, right?
Yeah.
And you are playing off your notes and what's rolling on the video back and forth, and trying to stay on time. So I think that was a huge beneficial thing for me when I got to ESPN finally, because I quit that job and went through like 4 years of freelancing and working various jobs. I sold prepaid legal insurance. I assembled garbage cans. I worked for MCI in corporate sales. This is like 4 years. Yeah. And then ESPN2 started. Keith Olbermann and Susie Colbert were the lead anchors. Stuart Scott, Bill Pito, and Deb Kaufman were the smash anchors. It was like the 2-minute, 4-minute update, whatever. And Stuart moved up to be the anchor. Keith moved over to Channel 1 again, and they needed one more guy, and that was me.
Awesome story. The guy was grinding even when he wasn't fully at ESPN yet. Peyton, give me your question.
So you and Katie,
I gotta hop off, fellas.
All right,
you know what? That's
going to the field.
Bye, Jacob.
Thank you, Kenny.
Bye, Jacob.
What?
See you, Jacob. Thank you.
He's going to play a soccer tournament. He's a really
he's got a
committed goaltender. He couldn't find his gloves about 10 minutes ago. He was pooping his pants. You went to the National Dog Show with Katie Nolan in Philadelphia about a year ago, and when you got there, the dog owners were extremely standoffish about letting you touch their dogs, pet their dogs. You chased the guy almost halfway across the convention center just to pet his Bernese Mountain Dog, and he wouldn't let you. Were you surprised by the vibe of the dog show and just like the hostility with the owners and their dogs?
Well, having already seen Best in Show, and I'm a big Christopher Guest fan, who, by the way, was a guest on my podcast. He was instrumental in that whole thing because we weren't trying to copy it. We were trying to do our own version, and I think we would have done our version if he never did his version. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I think Katie and I would have gone there, not to make fun of the thing, but to have fun with it, just kind of like, what in the hell? And the people are very intense. They're very much like you saw if you saw the movie Best in Show. And we were kind of doing the can we pet your dog as sort of a goof to see who would let us and who wouldn't. Yeah. But we tried to, be respectful of, you don't, just like if you're on the street and you see a dog that says don't pet, you don't pet it, right? Like if it's a worker dog. Yeah. But I know a veteran in Connecticut, he lets me pet his, like it's his companion dog, but he's cool with it. It's okay for strangers to come up. In this case, we needed material that was supposed to be funny, so we just kind of went after it.
Quick follow-up that has nothing to do with this. I saw you drinking Smart Water at the beginning of the interview, and then you pull out a Fiji water from the fridge. Are you a designer water guy? Is that your thing?
I like Fiji water better. The Smart Water is out there melting with.
If you could make like a Venn diagram of like Smart Water and Fiji water and like what the positives and negatives are, what would be the biggest positive of Fiji water?
Well, the truth is I should just be drinking Seattle tap water here because it's nothing
good
wrong
stuff.
With it. But it's hard to take a glass, driving in your car. So sometimes I should get the recyclable water bottle. You're right.
Is it the shape? Is it the shape of the bottle?
I'm a packaging sucker. I'll buy anything that it has a flower. It says natural artesian water. It's probably beneficial. I'm just trying to hydrate.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you, Kenny.
So like yesterday at the Storm game, you can't bring in drinks, right?
Yeah.
but my daughter had a recyclable, like a reusable water container. I'm like, wait a minute, this place is called Climate Pledge Arena. You would think that she's doing something to save society. And they did. They waved her through. They said you have to dump it out, but you can bring it in and refill it inside.
Hey, good.
Awesome. That's cool.
Good
Last
stuff.
question, though, before we let you go, Kenny. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. I know earlier in the interview you said you don't like making football predictions, but I have to ask you. Way too early Super Bowl winner predictions. Any thoughts on that at all? Give it to me. I know you probably won't make one, but I had to ask.
Don't do it.
Let me share that we have Swedish fish here. Also, Gretchen loves to have like the candy thing. So when the kids come over, hold on. This is a picture of my grandma and me and my sisters.
That's awesome.
At the bottom.
Oh my God.
That's some history.
I think I don't even care to make one because anybody in the AFC West is good, right? We've already named all the good quarterbacks out there.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron's going to show up. Why is this refrigerator open? That's a mistake. Go Mariners is what I'm saying. And
Hell yeah.
Go Mariners.
They've been really fun to watch. They have like a really good energy about them.
They're
clearly like together in this project, and they're having some good success. So I'm hopeful that they, stay in and they make the playoffs, and then anything happens. Seahawks, I can't figure it out. I trust Pete. If he says this is what we need, he's been good to us so far.
Yeah.
Like that's the same thing. It bothers me that some people are down on Russell because he's over there now. I was like, dude, he gave us 10 great years. You missed the playoff once, maybe.
I think it was one. It was one year he missed it.
Super Bowls.
Yep.
And by the way, that play at the goal line, they should have faked the ball to Marshawn because that was what was expected. Ooh. Now Russell's rolling short side to the left. He might run in. He might drop it off. He might throw it out of bounds. Now it's third down.
Never heard that take before. It's a good one.
Yeah, what they did call was not great. The execution was bad. I don't know.
Listen, the Mariners. I'll say this though. In the home run derby when Juan Soto beat their young guy. I'm forgetting his name.
Julio Rodriguez.
There we go. Yeah, number 23, their young guy. He's been phenomenal this season. So listen,
he's really good.
I'm already stamping him as Griffey 2.0.
Oh my God!
Hey, here we go.
I just said that.
You heard it here first. He's stamping him. And listen, if him and the Mariners go on some kind of subtle run in the postseason, like you said, once you're in the postseason, it's everyone starts out 0-0. It's a whole different season, so you never know what could happen. But Kenny, listen. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. We really appreciated all the questions we got to ask you, all the answers you gave. You were awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. And, again, we'll see you next time, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate it. Nice meeting you, man.
Good luck.
Peace out, man.
That was awesome to have him on.
What a fucking guy.
He's so
Holy
awesome.
moly.
And the amount of times the guy with the Swedish fish, we got
that was great.
Candies,
I think the Swedish fish honestly switching from smart water to Fiji water might be one of that's some rich guy shit right there. No offense, Kenny, of course. All due respect.
You having the question though of just coming off with that top of the dome, just bringing that up, that was phenomenal because it was a great soundbite to get him being like, you know what? Listen, I should drink tap water, but we got the Fiji. I'm a sucker for the packaging. If you have good marketing,
I knew it, dude. I'm like, this guy, he's got smart water and tap water. He's definitely such an advertisement bug. Like he just buys it all.
He did say smart water doesn't make you smarter though, unfortunately. So
we didn't get that on it. I wish we got that soundbite. We missed that one.
I wish we did. Yeah, he told us a few minutes before the show, but. That interview is over. We're going to move on to some general sports topics, going to the NFL. Again, Jacob's not with us. We wish him luck, though, in his playoff game. Go, Jacob. Get good goals. Here we go.
Nope,
NFL.
He's the goaltender.
He's the goaltender.
Oh, he is the goaltender.
Stop all goals, Jacob. Stop them all.
He is the goaltender.
There you
Stop
go.
all goals. There you go.
There you go.
Baker Mayfield going to the NFL. He has officially been named the Week 1 starter for the Carolina Panthers. I posted it on my Instagram story, and I posed the question, did the Panthers make the right decision? 100% of the people that answered my poll said yes. And Conor, you were one of them that answered it, and you said yes. So I'll go to you first. Why is this the right decision, and why did they go with Baker for the starting quarterback position?
I mean, like, do you want Sam Darnold running your offense?
I was about to say, why,
No.
why is this a hard? What do you mean? Why?
It's not a
horrible.
hard. I'm just saying. I'm curious. Connor's opinion here.
There's one very simple answer to this question.
Baker Mayfield, we all know he's had his struggles, and I think that a change of scenery is big for him. He's miles ahead of Sam Darnold. It's really as simple
100%.
as that.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, like that when you're in like third grade math and you have like greater than or less than, like Baker Mayfield is greater than Sam Darnold. Very simple. I don't really have any other answer besides I would not. I just don't.
It was even like up for debate in the first place. Who was going to?
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like Matt Corral, before he got injured, he almost had a better chance of getting it than Sam Darnold did.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Matt Corral's got a better chance on TikTok than he does in the NFL. And be straight up with you.
All right. I mean, listen.
I'm gonna be honest.
Maybe the next Juju Smith-Schuster, but I think talent-wise at quarterback, I think he's a better option than Sam Darnold. We'll leave it at that. Baker was the obvious choice. I'm glad he got a starting job. Conor, Giants fan. Man, did you must have breathed a sigh of relief. You just did it right now, but you must have breathed a sigh of relief today when you saw that Kayvon Thibodeau, I believe he was your pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Am I wrong?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So you, again, as a Giants fan, only an MCL sprain. He's going to be expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks. His ACL and his meniscus look to be intact from the initial X-rays they took. So here, do it with me, Conor. It's okay.
You didn't do it together.
No,
yeah,
but
what are your reactions? Yeah.
I just feel like this is going to be something that's going to be nagging him all year, even though people are downplaying it. Like,
agreed.
4 weeks and then be good for, maybe week 1, probably week 2. I just think it's going to be something that's going to be bothering him all season long. I mean, how can you not if you're a Giant fan?
He's going to have a tough season, in my opinion. I hate to say it.
Now he is. Yeah, I think so.
I think honestly, he wasn't going to have. No offense, obviously you picked him for D-Roy, but I don't see him on the level of Hutchinson right now, like in terms of being able to have an impact. And he just doesn't look that. He didn't look that clean in the preseason game, to be honest. I didn't see much of him. Again, I don't think any of us did, but glad that he's not, out for the whole year. But I agree with Conor. This is definitely going to nag, and I think it's going to be a long season for the Giants defense as a whole and Thibodeau specifically.
Both New York teams have dodged.
You literally beat me to the punch. I was going to say New York in the preseason. What's going on with you guys? First Zach Wilson with the knee, now Kayvon. It's I don't know what's happening.
When your teams are horrible, you have to play your starters more than other teams.
Yeah, you have.
He's
to play
right.
them in the,
That's what it is.
Because you have to get a look at them. You have to see what they can do for you, and it's.
And you got to remember, you got guys in the preseason that are literally fighting for a contract, fighting.
Yeah,
you got your first round pick in there who's got $22 million guaranteed or whatever it may be, and and you got guys out there that barely drive a Prius. Like they're trying to kill somebody. They're trying to take somebody's head off.
They're trying to make their practice squad team. Forget even a contract.
That's what I'm saying. So if you put a first rounder out there and he doesn't have his head on straight and he's not sure what's going on or he doesn't catch his read, he might be getting his head taken off because they do not really care about player safety in preseason. I'll tell you that right now.
They barely care about
Facts.
the regular season.
I think they care about. I think the players. I think those real ballers, those guys that are top 20, the guys that are in the top 100, top 200 players in the league, definitely have more whereabout to understand the impact of their hits and the impact of what they're doing. Preseason guys that are again fighting for a spot in a team do not give a shit if you get carried out in a stretcher. No 100%. Offense.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely not. Derwin James gets a 4-year, $76.532, very specific, $1 million extension from the Chargers. They re-up one of their best defenders. We've talked about the amount of great defenders they have on their team. Mac, Bosa, now Derwin. They got J.C. Jackson. It's insane. But Derwin James getting that contract. Conor, is he worth that money? Too much for a safety? What do you think?
I think maybe a little bit too much for safety, but him as a player, no. I think that it was a pretty fair contract. He honestly could have gotten more.
Yeah, I think as a talent, he's probably talent-wise the top 3, top 2, maybe even number 1 safety in the NFL when he's healthy. So listen, I don't have an issue with the contract. Again, safeties and running backs and even tight ends a little bit kind of bear the brunt of shitty contracts, not really getting paid a lot because they're not seen as valuable as other people like receivers and quarterbacks. The market is just not as high as those guys. But Peyton, him becoming the highest paid safety in the NFL, right decision, wrong decision. What do you think?
Right decision. They're on the crux.
right
They're on the
decision.
crux of a Super Bowl. The one guy you need to lock up on that defense, and I know they have Bosa. I know they have Mac. I know they have J.C. Jackson. The one singular most important guy to lock up on that defense is Derwin James because he runs the whole show from the back end, and talent-wise, he's the best safety in the league. So
Definitely.
yeah,
That's what
I
that's what I was saying.
I think it's completely fine. I don't mind the contract at all, and I agree with Conor. He probably could have gotten more, so I think it's a fair contract.
Yeah, it is a fair contract. Moving on, Deshaun Watson. I'm going to go through all this information. It's going to be a mouthful for the listeners. Just take all this in. I know you guys, we've been talking about this at nauseum, but let's go. So we'll start off in the soliloquy. Deshaun Watson got suspended 11 games and is going to pay a $5 million fine. He agreed on a settlement with the NFL. So now we have to take this into consideration. The NFL was going to have another judge look at this case, and Deshaun Watson did not let it get to that point. He settled on this agreement of this punishment with the league. So Watson also, in addition to all that I just mentioned, he must undergo evaluation by a behavioral expert and follow suggested treatment programs by the NFL. He is eligible to return week 13 at the Texans in Houston, or if we want to call it a revenge game or whatever we want to call it.
It is so staged.
It's so staged because the NFL had a part in deciding how many weeks he was going to get with the settlement. So we get him back going into Houston, playing against the Texans. He can resume practice by week 11. The league and the Browns also donated $1 million to help those who have been impacted by sexual misconduct. That's all the information. Conor, I'll go to you. Reactions. Again, I think I posted this on my story too, the question, and you answered the poll saying that this punishment was not enough. It should have been more. So give me your thoughts.
My opinion, I think it's more of a marketing job by the NFL than actually them handing him the suspension he deserves. Because like you just said, week 13 against Houston, that's his former team. Everybody knows that. He's going to go and make his debut as a Brown in Houston instead of really getting a punishment that is actually suitable for everyone's standards. I mean, we can all agree that it seems pretty staged at this point, that the NFL just wants him to make his debut. They wanted him to go and face the media for some reason. I don't know why he did that.
Oh my God, it was terrible. We're going to talk about that. That was terrible. Oh my God.
Just them giving him the suspension and then saying, "Yeah, you're good week 13 against Houston." It just doesn't sit well with me at all.
Peyton,
I have no opinion.
No opinion. Nothing.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. Nope, done.
All right, I'll say one thing though, because during the interview that they put him out in front of the media, I don't know what this guy was doing. Conor, did you hear the quote where he said, "Oh, I apologize to anybody who was triggered or affected by this"?
Yeah.
Who's triggered? Triggered that you allegedly sexually assaulted 24 different women?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, who would be triggered by that? Not even necessarily apologizing to the women directly. He was like, "Oh, apologizing to anybody, any of the women, any women everywhere who have been affected or triggered by this."
Can I get my 2 cents now?
Yeah.
He lives in a bubble that none of us can fathom because we've never even come close to it. His world looks nothing like ours, and his opinions and the way that he shaped his thoughts around this whole thing is probably so jaded and so distorted that even in not in front of the media, I think he probably thinks the same way. I don't think he even has the wherewithal or the ability to put on a front to the media. I truly think that's how he feels. And I think in a sense he's almost lost it. And again, I really, that's all I got to say about that.
The Browns coming out and saying that people deserve, or that people always deserve a second chance. The dude
the owner said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the guy shows zero, remorse.
He still claims full innocence.
Yeah. So it's just a really bad job by the NFL, the Browns, Watson, everybody.
Yeah, the whole situation is messy. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, but after hearing him speak, he just seemed discombobulated. Nothing was he didn't stick to one point, one storyline. He was all over the place. I didn't like the way
everybody around him is validating his behavior.
100%.
Nobody
in his camp, owners, everybody.
Browns, NFL, everybody in his camp, everybody around him is validating what he did and making him feel like it wasn't that big a deal. So that's why he's talking the way he is. It's not only obviously responsibility falls solely on him, but you have to look around at the league, at the Browns, at his, immediate circle and just say, who the hell is this guy talking to? Who is telling him that this is, normal behavior, that this isn't like serious.
Who's aiding this? Like who's aiding and abetting the conversation that he's having with the media? Who's giving him the platform and kind of urging him? It's just
I think it goes hand in hand with all these. Again, I'm all for players' rights and more power to the players. I think the most important part of the game is the players, but I think it's put certain athletes, a guy like him specifically, in this place where he feels like he's done no wrong and he's untouchable. And it's just, it looks awful. It looks god awful.
Definitely. We'll move on though. Again, we've talked about that ad nauseum, so I'm sure Peyton's glad to move on. We're going to go to some Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers talk, which I'm going to start off by giving my thoughts on the whole situation and just providing all the information once again. So recently, Aaron Rodgers came out and expressed frustration with his young wide receiving core, which includes Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Doubs has been the primary guy in camp. Watson hasn't played 11 on 11 yet. He's been hurt during camp, so haven't seen much of him. Basically, some of the stuff that Rodgers was talking about, he has, first off, we'll talk about the receivers who have been there before, older veterans. He's very high on Allen Lazard. He has said that he believes that Allen Lazard can be a true number one wide receiver. He thinks Randall Cobb is still a premier slot receiver in the NFL, and he's very excited about what Sammy Watkins can bring. He said recently Watkins has been having some of his best days during camp, so he's excited to see what Watkins can bring. Rob Domofsky, who covers the Packers for ESPN, I'm going to read this quote directly from my phone, interviewed Rodgers, and this is what Rodgers said. Repeat mistakes are a problem, so we just got to clean those things up a little bit. The young guys got to be way more consistent. A lot of drops, a lot of running the wrong routes, so we got to get better in that area. We're going to play our best guys when the season starts, and whoever those guys are going to get the reps, and it's the guys I trust the most and the guys that the coaching staff trusts the most. He loves the word guys, apparently, because it was like 6 times back-to-back in that quote. Mm-hmm. And then per Packers reporter Rob Domofsky again, some of Rodgers' frustration was born from that preseason game that we talked about when Jordan Love had the 3 interceptions, and he blamed all of those on the young receivers. He didn't blame a single one on Jordan Love, came out and said it was all due to drops, not running the correct route, not being aware of the situation that they were in with the corner behind them, that kind of thing. Blamed it all on the receivers. Rodgers also came out and said, guys who don't catch the ball will not play. And lastly, the last thing, he brought up A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and that he could very much see a scenario where both of those guys get at least 50 catches apiece this season, using them out of the backfield. A lot of information, a mouthful. Conor, are the Packers going to be successful? Is Rodgers going to have a good rapport with his young receiving core? And do you still trust them after all of this to win the NFC North?
I think that this is actually a good thing for the Packers, just because of the scrutiny between Rodgers and them over the past couple of seasons. It proves that he really wants to win here. He wants them to be successful. And if there's someone in the Packers organization that can motivate those young guys, it's Aaron Rodgers. So, 100%. Him saying this in the preseason is a really good sign for them. And now I expect the Packers to go out there and play really well.
So you don't think – sorry, I just want to – Conor, so you don't think it was wrong of him to call his young receivers out publicly, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right, Peyton.
I agree with Conor. I think he called out the weakest part of their team at the moment, and I think that's the right thing to do, to call on the weakest link to perform so that the entire team can succeed. Because if their receivers, if one of either Romeo Doubs, whatever his name is, Lazard, if one of Lazard, Doubs, or Watson can be a true number one, they have a really, really, really good shot this year. Without that number one, I still think they have a decent shot because of how good their defense is. And I love A.J. Dillon on the ground, and I still love Aaron Jones as one of the most versatile, dynamic players in the league. So I still love their chances, but I agree with Conor. I think it's the right thing to do. And honestly, I think it'll just make him perform. The pressure from a guy like that, I mean, how can you not feel it?
And Romeo Doubs performed a lot better in that Saints preseason game. He had a lot of great, tough, contested catches in the end zone on the sideline over some defenders, and that was after Aaron Rodgers called him out. So, and that was even with Jordan Love not in for the entire game. Like
I told you, Romeo was 1 to 300 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Told me this,
before the Saints game. After the Saints game, he's 1 to 15. So obviously
that Saints game was drastic improvement. He was making a lot of tough catches.
Obviously, people are noticing it, and hopefully it can translate into the league. If there's one guy that can make you look good, it's Aaron Rodgers. So.
And I agree with both of you. There's no disagreement here. I think he was 100% right to call them out, because if anyone has the right outside of Tom Brady in the league right now, like outside of guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen and Brady, Rodgers has the entire right to call out young receivers who just got in here, and Rodgers is used to a certain level of play, certain level of commitment, certain level of competence of being able to just understand the route tree that you have, the offense that you're in, not dropping balls. Like he had come out and said that Romeo Doubs before the Saints game, I think this might even be why he played so well. There was a bounce back during training camp. Dobbs beat his defender on a go route down the sideline, and Rodgers put the ball right in the breadbasket for him, and it went right through his hands. And Rodgers was getting after him during training camp, and he was really pissed off. That's where some of the frustration stemmed from as well. After that, comes out and has a baller game in the second preseason game. Excuse me. So I really do think it was the right call, because I feel like we're already like that. We're seeing drastic improvement. Not drastic. We're seeing improvement, put it that way, from these young guys. Hopefully when Christian Watson comes back, we can see a little bit. My offensive rookie of the year, I want to see big things out of him. Let's go, Watson. But yeah, I know. We'll see. Now Dobbs has better odds than he does, but we'll see what Watson can do once he gets back from his injury, gets off the PUP list, and he can play 11 on 11, see how Rodgers can work with him. Final thing we're going to go over. NBA, LeBron James signed a 2-year, $97.1 million extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. It had been pending for a while. We were all wondering whether he was going to sign back with them or not. He finally did. Of course, he has a player option in the 2024-2025 season. It's what LeBron does, gives himself insurance in case he needs to get out of there if they suck again.
Fraud.
Which is looking like, yeah, which is looking like, shut up.
Fraud.
It's looking like they might suck, so he always assures himself, take care of yourself first. With this contract, though, he now becomes the highest earning player in NBA history, having made $532 million guaranteed dollars throughout his, I believe, 21 year career. Just general thoughts and reactions to that. I mean, $532 million guaranteed. I believe he's already a billionaire from all the money he's made off the court as well with his deals, Nike, everything. What are the reactions to this, though, now passing Kevin Durant, being, he's halfway to being a billionaire just from the NBA?
Peyton, go ahead.
Why do I have to go?
It's your guy.
My reactions.
Fraud,
I mean,
apparently.
there's nobody in the league that can fill the guy's shoes. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even think there's many players from the past, all-time greats, and I'm not going to name them out of pure respect for them, but I really don't know if they could fill the shoes of LeBron James in terms of the impact that he has on the court in every facet of the game.
The scrutiny he endured as an 18-year-old.
He endured. Okay, yeah, when he was young, he didn't deserve the scrutiny. Now he deserves all.
No, I'm saying that
scrutiny.
he's been the most scrutinized. Not even deserve or not.
Maybe that's made him the way he is now. But
he's the most scrutinized player in sports history of any sport ever.
He's also the most hypocritical sports player of all time in sports history.
We won't get into that now, but yeah.
Massive hypocrite, massive bum. Don't like him at all. But yeah, he deserves all the money in the world. He's the best player in the NBA by far. So,
all right, Conor, what do you think?
Best player of our generation. Just he's been unreal. I mean, I agree with Peyton. He's been extremely hypocritical through the later stages of his career, but early on,
yes.
I love him, dude. He was so sick. It's gonna be interesting to see how these final 2 years play out, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, these last 2 years could really they could make or break the argument for him being the definite number one player of all. Exactly. There's no doubt that he's top 5. There's no doubt that he's top 3. To be honest,
there's no doubt that he's top 2. What do you mean, bro? There's no doubt. There is no doubt.
I think there's conversation, but if these last 2 years go well and he actually sticks to his guns and sticks to his word and plays like he can and wins a chipper, 1 or 2, just one chip would do, I think.
Yeah.
Then he'd probably be the best of all time. He's going to pass Kareem most likely. I don't know if he already has.
No, he will. This year he's going to get it most likely.
Yeah. So once he passes Kareem, if he gets another chip under his belt within the next 2 years, then he's probably going to be the definite number one player of all time, and it's going to be really hard to make an argument. If he passes Kareem and doesn't get a chip within the next 2 years and they play like crap, it's extremely arguable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing, I know that I said that was the last thing, but I have to give the live update. We got a Yankees fan here and a Mets fan over here. Judge just hit his 47th home run of the season. The Yankees are up 2-0 in the bottom of the third. Most likely won't last because we have sucked as of late. But, listen, I'm going to enjoy this lead while it lasts over Conor's Mets, who have been surging as of late. They've been phenomenal. They look like, in my opinion, the World Series favorites. But listen, Yankees got you guys right now. It's only the bottom.
That's against Scherzer, too. It's impressive.
It is against Scherzer. Yeah, Judge got his 47th. But listen, had to give the live update. This show is now officially over. We covered a lot of topics. I had Kenny Mayne on the show. We were so appreciative to have him on. I got to meet him in Los Angeles, got to get him as the connection, get him on our show over here finally. It was great to have him on. Gave a lot of great sound bites, great questions. Thank you again for coming on. If you don't follow us on Instagram at TCHT_podcast, go follow us over there. All of our socials, Jacob, myself, Conor, Peyton, even Kenny Mayne, and the Cold Hard Truth, all of our socials down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for listening to another great episode of the Cold Hard Truth. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Peace.